Well, hello, welcome to the Garden Gurus. I'm Trevor Cochran.
I'm Neville Passmore.
And we're about to take you on a journey back in time. It's 20 years since we started the Garden Gurus, and it all started here in Perth with some pretty dry weather conditions, didn't it?
Absolutely. In fact, it was kind of dry weather that motivated us to move to the eastern states because droughts just kept on rolling around the country. And gardeners needed a lot of advice as to how to get their garden back into gear or keep it alive.
Yeah, nobody knows that better than West Australians because those hot, dry conditions, particularly in sandy soils, can be incredibly challenging. Of course, we started talking about water conservation being water wise, but later on it became apparent this is actually climate change.
Absolutely, and then it comes down to the personal level when we look at urban heat and the fact that our towns and cities and suburbs are getting hotter by the moment because of all of the hard surfaces around.
In fact, the evidence suggested that typically those heat sinks of our cities were 10 degrees hotter than areas out in regional locations not far from them. So it meant we all needed to do something. We needed to green our own backyards.
Absolutely, and we need to cool our suburbs, and doing it garden by garden is very doable.
Exactly right. And that's why we created the Garden Gurus. So here's what's coming up on today's show. Awesome, tough, relaxed. Just a few ways to get your lawn back to its glory. I'll show you the irrigation systems to get you through this autumn, sprinkling some childhood memories along the way. And Nev gets a little dirty with his one true love, compost.
I'm very excited today to be talking about one of the great loves of my life. This stuff, it's called compost, and it's squelchy, got a sweet smell, and when it comes to the garden, this stuff is gold for your plants, absolutely. And you know, you can make this at home if you've got just 1 square metre of space. It takes food and garden waste out of the rubbish system, which benefits planet Earth through less methane emissions. It means you can turn garden and kitchen waste into the best plant food around, and it's easy and basically odour-free. Now let me show you how I get things going with my true love. This is a sophisticated sort of a standalone bin. It's got the equivalent of a lung in the centre, in other words, an open pipe that allows the air to circulate quite freely. Now, the beauty of it is that I don't have to turn this mix ever. The air is always well supplied as a result of that pipe in the middle. You can knock up a lung for any freestanding bin from PVC pipe. Just drill a few holes in the side. Position this vertically when you next empty the bin, and occasionally flush it out with a hose. If your compost dries out, the whole operation comes to a standstill. Check moisture by gripping a handful of the composting material and squeezing it tight to see water coming out between your fingers. This is perfect. Garden prunings, fresh weeds, lawn clippings can also be added to such a mix. This homemade system tends to dry out because of the unsealed sides. Last summer was particularly hot and dry in Perth. So to overcome this dryness problem, I've set up this square of drip line. And this is connected to my irrigation system, so whenever the lawn comes on, the compost gets a drink as well. Believe it or not, there's composting going on in this lawn. I use a mulching mower every week, which chops up the clippings to powder size, then pushes them back into the grass. No catcher needed. The nitrogen-rich micro clippings break down through the composting and feed the lawn, so no additional fertiliser needed. Now, my earthworms reckon this compost is better than chocolate, and so do all the squillions of earth-living organisms that actually make our garden so happy. So why don't you have a go in your backyard? You might just discover your own love.
To celebrate 20 years of the Garden Gurus, we're looking back on some of our favourite moments. Of all the presenters that I've worked with throughout the years with the Garden Gurus, there's one that always leaves great memories with me, and it's my mate Nige Ruck. And during the day, he keeps you on your toes, and during the night, he also keeps you on your toes. But when you get on a plane, Nige loves to doze, and I love to take photos.
A good garden rake is an essential tool, but did you know that there are different rakes specifically designed for the different jobs around the garden? The discerning gardener will have a number of rakes for the different raking tasks. To get the leaves off the lawn here, I'm using a specialist leaf and lawn rake. It's springy, lightweight and easy to use, and it's adjustable. Or why not try the 4-in-1 rake that easily converts for wide or narrow areas, as well as coming apart to use as handy leaf scoopers. For heavier soil raking and cultivating, you've got these heavier duty rakes that are perfect for heavier soils or raking out new soil and levelling in garden beds. In fact, these are the very two rakes that I used just last weekend when I was preparing these garden beds behind me. If you want to level out large areas of soil for a new garden bed or lawn, you can't beat this long span rake that will seemingly glide over the soil. It's also great for collecting loose rocks and sticks and debris, as well as lawn clippings. I know Trev's got a couple of these rakes, but you see, he does do a lot of raking. Thatch and dead grass can cause all sorts of problems for your lawn, so to remove them, use a specialist scarifying rake. This will help get your lawn back to optimum health. It's always good to follow up scarifying with a good feed and plenty of water to help the grass recover quickly. Part of the genius with these Wolfgarten tools is the multi-star interchangeable system that allows you to swap all the different tools, including these rakes, onto the pole, saving you storage space and money. And all of the tools are made in Germany and built to last.
Perhaps you're aware that the most fertile soils in the world, called terra preta, are essentially man-made. These were formed in the Amazon basin by the burning of wood without oxygen to produce charcoal. Today we call this biochar. Added to this were pottery shards, organic matter and minerals. The result, incredible fertility that resisted leaching even in a wet tropical environment. Soil scientists estimate that this method of farming lasted over 1,000 years, yet it ended 1,200 years ago, and that soil is still fertile to this day. The people at Seasol have crafted a soil improver regenerator by combining biochar with rock minerals, zeolite and a generous addition of seaweed extract that we recognise as Seasol. Biocharcoal is a form of carbon which has great value in the soil, and it certainly increases the water holding capacity. However, of itself, it's just an inert substance, a bit like an empty apartment block in the desert. Zeolite is a volcanic rock that attracts nutrients and moisture, then slowly releases these back to the plants as required. Added paramagnetic rock minerals provide a range of nutrients. These are slowly delivered over years instead of days or months. Seasol is the key ingredient. It attracts soil life, things like microbes, nematodes, even earthworms, to come into the structure and use it as a home, a safe haven. When combined, these ingredients bring to the sterile apartment block all the things needed to make it livable and enjoyable. Seasol biochar with zeolite does the same in soils, literally bringing life and true fertility. You can apply to lawn or soil before planting trees and shrubs. Also add to potting mix for all your potted plants. Gardeners have reported exceptional productivity in the vegetable patch for both fruiting varieties as well as leafy greens. Autumn is a great time to apply this mix, and a little goes a long way. So 100 gram is enough to cover a square metre. Now I've been applying this all around my orchard here, and I tell you what, I can't wait to taste the results.
Well, my most memorable moment, it's hard to say, I mean, there have been so many, but some of the explore trips have been incredible. Japan is a standout for me, one I did years ago with Trevor and Neville. I was lucky enough to do some great stories there, the sumo wrestling. Got dressed up in a traditional outfit and got into a fight at a Japanese movie village. It was a lot of fun. And then probably another memory on that trip was all the action in the karaoke bars. Funnily enough, that didn't go to air.
Murphy's Law of Irrigation states that your system will fail on a 40-degree plus day that just turns out to be a public holiday. Well, my lawn has suffered from just such a failure, and this scald, this terrible scald in the lawn, is the result. My mission is to get it green again in a hurry, so I'm going to overseed it. Here's the process. Yesterday, I mowed the lawn low. Now I'll stir up the dead area with a steel rake and try to pull as much dead matter out as I can. I'm applying a specific conditioner, Scott's Lawn Builder Lawn Starter. It's boosted with iron, sulphur and calcium to promote deeper green growth and strong roots. This includes a slow-release fertiliser that continuously feeds your establishing lawn for 3 months. Scott's have got 3 different blends of lawn seed, all suitable for warm climates, and they go by the name of Awesome, Tough and Relaxed. The Awesome mix, once established, is a lush green lawn with soft blades and a deep spreading root system that gives you beautiful thick cover. The Tough mix requires less watering and is drought tolerant, making it perfect for pets and backyard activities. It establishes a strong, tough and resilient lawn. The Relax custom seeds require less time mowing, watering and feeding, so you can spend more time relaxing. So I'm looking for awesome results. That's why I'm going to use this particular seed. Now it's worth mentioning that these seeds are coated, and that coating helps to improve water retention, and it also contains a deterrent for birds and ants. While I'm using the pull-out pourer to spread seeds over this small area, if your project's more ambitious, in other words, larger, then use the famous Scott's spreader. So the last job is to water in the seeds. Now I like to give it a real good soak with a hose. That should get it going. Now, of course, I'm not in the least impatient, but I have got the timer on.
Spring is a wonderful time of the year to get into the garden, and it's not just those perennial shrubs like beautiful roses that are setting the standard when it comes to colour and fragrance. One of the most iconic spring experiences you can have is spring flowering bulbs, and now is the time to do something about it. When it comes to bulbs, the best of the best have to be Dutch iris, and Discovery is one of the very best varieties. The fragrant freesias with the Hey Deco mix and refractor collections perform really well anywhere. There's jonquils and daffodils. There's ranunculi and grape hyacinths, anemones, and the poppy mix is superb. Of course, hyacinths and tulips round out the perfect varieties to grow at home. Now, one of the most important things you need to do is plant them in a bright, sunny position. If you're in a really hot climate, afternoon shade's not really a problem, but you do want that bright sunlight because that's what produces the flowers. You want to grow them in a garden bed, enrich it now with lots of organic material and scratch it right into the top 100 mil or so of soil. This gets it loose and friable and ready for planting. And of course, if you're going to grow them in pots, big pots, lots of potting mix, and make sure it's really good quality.
So where do I see the future in gardening? Well, first of all, it's going down that biological road, looking after our soil, working with nature, using the techniques that our grandparents and even their grandparents used, and modifying those and bringing them into the home garden. And then food is just going to keep on going. The idea of growing some food at least at home is very compelling.
When it comes to having a beautiful garden, the key really is getting your watering system right. Now, no matter how you water your plants, it's critical you do it this time of the year. We might be coming out of the hottest time of the year with summer, but believe it or not, autumn is actually one of the most critical times to water your plants. You see, the summer has dried out the aquifers, the trees have soaked up moisture, irrigation systems have taken it out of the ground, and your soil moisture levels are starting to dry quite severely. This is the time when your plants should be growing at their very best. The mild conditions are perfect. So supplementing your water supply properly now with irrigation or sprinklers is critically important. Here is my sprinkler guide. The classic sprinkler design that's a part of many Aussie kids' childhood is the 3-arm sprinkler. If you haven't run and jumped through the throw of one of these as a kid, you've missed out. Interestingly, the design was brilliant. It evenly distributed water over a fairly large area, with the maximum distribution being about 110 square metres. The original design featured aluminium or steel arms, but these would corrode. Now, the new Holman version uses UV-protected plastic and delivers large droplets, meaning less loss to evaporation and a deeper drink for the lawn or garden bed's roots. Now, the other sprinkler that's an absolute classic is this one. This is the oscillating sprinkler. Now, the way it works is it moves back and forth in a bit of a squared off pattern, so it's ideal for those square cornered backyards. And with the right pressure, it can cover a huge 275 square metres. And the great thing about this sprinkler is each of the droplets is quite large, so when it hits the ground, it really does soak into the lawn and garden. The end plug can be removed to clear out debris from the nozzles if you find them starting to block. But what do you do with long, narrow gardens or lawns? Well, if it's a garden just 30 centimetres or so wide, then this is awesome. It's recycled tyres that make the dripper hose, and this hose weeps moisture when pressurised. Now, these can sit under mulch or on the surface of the soil and be run from a garden tap or hose, or connected to the retic system as well. When it comes to pots and garden beds, poly pipe is probably the best option. Running a length of poly along the ground on the surface and plugging in risers or spray heads or drippers into pots is such a simple way to ensure that every pot gets a good soak, whether you're around to do it on a hot day or not. This consistent soil moisture will ensure maximum growth outcomes, and that translates to lush, happy, healthy plants. And of course, there's the good old 20-metre soaker hose. This has to be one of the best ways to irrigate or water big, long, narrow stretches of garden and lawn. And if you can get the moisture back into the soil, this autumn is going to see the best growth you've ever seen in your garden plants, because autumn is a wonderful time of the year if your plants are getting the water. If you're not sure what sprinkler's best for you, duck into your local Bunnings store and check out the Holman Irrigation section. That's where you'll find all the sprinklers that I've talked about today. Well, that's all we've got for you this week on The Garden Gurus. Nev, it's hard to believe it was 20 years ago we started this show.
Yeah, we don't look that bad, do we?
No, we're
that old.
Pretty well. See, it's this lovely life of living all your time in the garden. It's good for you.
Absolutely. Can't wait to get into some fabulous gardens this season and look at some beautiful plants and show them to you, wherever you are in Australia.
Now, we've got a huge autumn season coming your way with lots of tips and garden advice. If there's anything from today's show that you would like to know, simply check out our website. Or if you've got a question, become a friend on Facebook. We love answering your questions. It's great having Nifty back for another great season of The Garden Gurus, 20 years down the line. Well done. We'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Beautiful. See you then.